All right, it's time that I start talking about this project that I'm working on because it's kind of been, it's been really taking a lot of my energy and a lot of my time in such a good way. So the project that I'm doing now is I'm actually writing a book, and I'm excited and scared about the book all at the same time because the book is actually around my journey with self harm, and I talk a little bit about self harm with my immediate closest friends. I started talking about it recently online, and I realized in talking about it online that there's this huge group of people who are so underserved in a way that helps them and makes them feel not so alone. And social media has really brought attention to a lot of different things in the past. I mean, more recently, the idea of like mental health awareness is amazing. It's so much more commonplace to talk about it now, and accepted to need help, and that's awesome. But one class of people with mental health challenges is the people who self-harm in one way or another. Self-harm isn't exclusively just cutting yourself. Self-harm can show up for people in a lot of different ways. Eating disorders is considered a form of self-harm. Overeating, undereating, working out too much to the point where you are hurting yourself because that's your release. That's how you deal with stress and anger. Like, that can be a form of self-harm if done to an extreme amount. Overworking. I mean, self-sabotage. So procrastination can be a form of self-harm. If you're procrastinating to the point where you know the effects of your procrastination are going to have such a negative impact on your life that it's going to start to manifest physically. Like, these are all forms of self-harm. It doesn't just show up in a physical sense. It shows up in a mental sense. It shows up in an emotional sense. And self-harm is something that's so untalked about by everyone, by fucking therapists. I know I've seen several therapists in the past who've told me that they don't work with people who self-harm. I'm sorry, that's not where that's not my specialty. I'm not sure, I'm not prepared, or I'm not sure how to handle that situation. It's nuts. And so I'm writing this book about my journey with self-harm, but it's also made me dive into this really amazing world, and honestly some rabbit holes around what makes people tick and do the things that they do, turn to the vices that they turn to, whether it's self-harm or alcohol or sex or whatever it is. Like, what makes people become addicted to things. And I'm diving into some really cool things. I'm also on this journey of trying to understand why I struggled with being addicted to self-harm for over 25 years. And when I say struggle with being addicted, addictions don't go away. Alcoholics who are in recovery, but they're still alcoholics, right? Self-harm is an addiction. It really is. And that's one of the ways I'm looking at it in this book when I'm talking about it, is because it ends up being your vice. It ends up being what you turn to when you're dealing with extreme emotional stress, extreme overwhelm, extreme anything. It's just there. And for whatever reason, it feels like that's what you need. An alcoholic needs a drink. A drug addict needs its drug. Self-harmer needs its self-harm. And if you've never dealt with self-harm before, if it's not something you've personally dealt with, it might be hard for you to hear that and understand what I mean. But if you've dealt with self-harm or self-sabotage tendencies in any way, then you understand what I'm talking about. And so I'm approaching this from the level of it feeling like an addiction, because I think it is. Which, again, if you've dealt with this and you've ever had somebody go, well, can't you just stop? Like, you know what I'm talking about, and you know how fucking crazy that is. But you also understand how crazy it feels to say no, right? The level of shame and guilt that surrounds these self-harm tendencies it's not right. And it's the same shame and guilt that people used to feel around mental health challenges. And that's becoming less and less taboo now. And so I want to change the narrative around this. I want to get this book out so that it can get in the hands of the people who need it. Number one, the people who are dealing with self-harm or have struggled with it in the past. Number two, the people who know someone who's dealing with self-harm, so that they know how to bridge this gap and fucking talk to us. Ask us if we're okay. So this book is going to be a really important project for me, and it's going to get ugly and it's going to be vulnerable, but listen, I can't write this on my own. And so I'm actually looking to interview some people who've dealt with self-harm tendencies in the past And I wanna start talking to other people about their stories, their experiences, what drove them to it, their first memories of it, what helped them stop, what support system they have in place now to keep them surrounded by people who can really check in on them and make sure they're doing okay. And so if that's you, if you've dealt with self-harm in the past, if you struggled with this type of thing in the past, I want to talk to you if you're open to talking to me. Now I know it's a little bit hard to talk to strangers about it, but if you're open to it, I'm open to hearing. You can share as much or as little as you want. I do have a list of questions. If you want to see them beforehand, I'm happy to provide them. But if you want to talk to me about this, if you're willing to be interviewed completely anonymously, your name is not going in this book. If you want to be interviewed completely anonymously, then shoot me a message. I'm so interested in talking to you about this. Because I know we're out here. And I know it's a lot more people than anyone realizes. And I'm gonna be busting some common myths in this book so that people stop saying, well, isn't that a thing that kids do? No, friend, we are out here. We just get better at hiding it. And things become a little more socially acceptable. And we find other vices that are equally self-harming, but they just show up in other ways. So if that's something that you want to do, if you're interested in talking to me about this or sharing your story with me, I'd love to hear it. Shoot me a message. We'll book a time to chat. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And I think this book is going to have a huge impact on the people who need it. And I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I put off talking about this for a long time. Like, I came up with some really crazy excuses to not talk about this book publicly. Like, I repainted my office, which you can see behind me. I was like, oh, I can't do this until I get a haircut, which is nuts. And I know why, and it's because it is scary, and it is vulnerable, and it's pretty polarizing, and I know it's a really controversial topic, and a lot of people are not going to enjoy hearing about this, and that's okay. I'm not here for everyone. I'm here for the people who need it, and it's time that we have a voice. It's time to change the narrative. So yeah, stick around. This is going to be an exciting journey. It's going to be a pretty vulnerable book around self-harm. If you want to be part of it, shoot me a message. I'd love to hear it.